I would like to call the January 21st, 2021 meeting of the Board of Education to order. At this time, Ms. Dwan Kraft will lead us in the invocation.
Good evening. Sorry. So I'm reading from Don't Sweat the Small Stuff at Work by Richard Carlson, Ph.D. Dare to be happy. Many people don't allow themselves the luxury of being enthusiastic, lighthearted, inspired, relaxed, or happy, especially at work. To me, this is a very unfortunate form of self-denial. It seems that a great number of people are frightened at what a happy demeanor would look like to other people, including coworkers, clients, and employers. After all, they assume someone who is relaxed or happy must not be a hard worker. The logic goes something like this. If they look happy, others might assume they were satisfied with the status quo and therefore lacking the necessary motivation to excel in their work or to go the extra mile. They certainly couldn't survive in a competitive environment. I'm often hired to speak to corporations around the country on stress reduction and happier living. On a number of occasions, the person who invited me to speak has asked me in a nervous tone whether I would help the employees become so happy they would lose their edge. I'm not kidding. In reality, it's the other way around. It's nonsense to believe that a relaxed, happy person necessarily lacks motivation. On the contrary, happy people are almost always the ones who love what they do. It's been shown again and again that people who love what they do are highly motivated by their own enthusiasm, who continually better themselves in their performance. They are good listeners and have a sharp learning curve. In addition, happy workers are highly creative, charismatic, easy to be around, and good team players. Unhappy people, on the other hand, are often held back by their own misery or stress, which distracts them from success. Rigid, stressed-out people are a drag to be around and difficult to work with. They are the ones who lack motivation because they are so consumed with their own problems, lack of time, and stress. Unhappy people often feel victimized by others and their working conditions. It's difficult for them to be solution-oriented because everything is seen as someone else's fault. In addition, they are usually poor team players because they are often self-centered and preoccupied with their own issues. They are defensive and almost always poor listeners. If they are successful, it's despite their unhappiness, not because of it. In fact, if an unhappy, stressed-out person can learn to become happier, he or she will become even more successful. I felt this strategy would be an excellent way to introduce this book because one of my goals is to convince you that it's okay to be happy, kind, patient, more relaxed, and forgiving. It's to your advantage, personally and professionally. You won't lose your edge, nor will you be walked on. I can assure you that you won't become apathetic, uncaring, or unmotivated. To the contrary, you'll feel more inspired, creative, and driven to make an even greater contribution than you do right now. You'll see solutions and opportunities where others see problems. Likewise, rather than being discouraged by setbacks or failures, you'll bounce back quickly and resiliently. You will have increased energy. You'll be able to work in the eye of the storm, and because you're so level-headed, you'll be the one who is looked to when tough decisions need to be made. You will rise to the top. If you dare to be happy, your life will begin to change immediately. Your life and your work will take on greater significance and will be experienced as an extraordinary adventure. You'll be loved by others, and without a doubt, you'll be sweating the small stuff far less often at work. And I'm dedicating that to all of our teachers and staff in Currituck County.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Taylor McCarthy will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Taylor's one of our student board members, and we're so appreciative of everything that she does. Thank you. Public comment session. Ms. Jones, do we have anyone that's signed up tonight? Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a first, I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We have an update from Dr. Lutz concerning in-person instruction as well as virtual instruction. Dr. Lutz?
Do you want to do the...
Audit report.
Oh, I'm sorry.
report
Audit
first.
report. We have Mr. Adam Skuperick. Yes, if you'll come forward and give us an update concerning our audit. Thank you.
I'm here tonight to present your audit report for the year ended June 30, 2020. You should have a balanced set of financial statements in front of you. This audit has been submitted and approved by the local government commission, and the contract between the board, our firm, and the LGC, a three-party contract, has been completed, and like I said, they've approved the submission of your statement. So I want to go through a couple pages within these statements. The first one being page 1, the opinion letter. The opinion paragraph, which is at the bottom of page 1, basically states that we believe that these statements fairly represent on all material aspects the financial position of the Currituck County School System as of June 30, 2020, and for the year then ended. So this is considered a clean, unmodified opinion letter. Some numbers to point out. Page 13, Exhibit 3. The general fund balance as of June 30, 2020 is $805,000, and that's an increase of $133,000 from the year before. So your local fund balance went up $133,000 to $805,000. You also have $445,000 of fund balance and other special revenue, $643,000 capital outlay, and $552,000 in individual school fund balance. You also have a business type fund, which has on page 21 a balance sheet. For your school food service fund, your business type funds, the most important number here is your cash number, which is again on page 21, the very top, the very first number, $11,900 of cash on hand as of June 30, 2020. Our audit is two parts. A financial statement audit and a compliance audit. The compliance piece of the statements begin on page 62. Here begins 3 letters, one on internal controls, one on compliance with state requirements, and one with federal requirements. The 2 state and federal requirements are both clean, unmodified opinion letters, and the internal control letter states that we had no material weaknesses on internal control over financial reporting. We do, however, have one finding related to the Title I federal program that we audited as major in the form of timely completion of time and effort reports. Being a federal program, they require you to certify that each individual paid with those funds are truly working on those federal programs. You did not have any question costs in that there were no individuals inappropriately paid with federal funds. You just did not certify them semi-annually with just a letter that says they were 100% eligible for Title I pay. So that's the one finding.
Okay.
Any questions? Again, I appreciate your time. The audit went well. I do think the positive increase, $133,000 increase in fund balance is definitely the right direction for this time frame and these conditions. So.
All right. Can you shed any light on your opinion concerning the fund balance?
Your fund balance at $805,000 only represents 1.8% of your total revenue, total budget. That is ultra low. Your fund balance, yes, it went up $133,000, but in previous years you were using fund balance, and the change in fund balance is always relative. So when you're adding fund balance, it's great, but this year's situation with the pandemic, everybody added fund balance. There's some savings regarding what happened after March 16th, just savings in utilities, overtime sub-pay. So part of that $133,000 increase is a result of COVID savings, and also the fact that you've got some state and federal funding for the pandemic, which there was a second round of that received that's good through 2023, but across the state, everybody is adding fund balance in anticipation of the next few years. After the federal and state COVID money is spent, where do we pay for some of the things that we've implemented? What are the ramifications from the state mandates that might come down just in not increasing funding the way it needs to be just because of economic conditions statewide or countrywide? So at $800,000, I think it is fairly low. You really have to operate within a break-even type budget. If you're using $50,000, $75,000 a year, sure, but my experience with fund balance usage, you make decisions that are reoccurring expenditures. So if you decide to use $50,000 of fund balance, you automatically are looking to use $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 next year. So I do think you're in a very tight spot as far as your fund balance goes, as with only $850,000. But it is an improvement from where it was a year ago.
But overall, it was a clean audit report, correct?
Yes, absolutely. These statements accurately reflect your financial position. You have all the internal control structures needed to account for all your dollars. There are, even on the compliance side, federal and state, any finding is not a good finding, but that certification, that time and effort certification, that is just it's a paperwork certification. It's not.
I do understand that you said earlier that it has already been corrected.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in fact, there is even within that finding, the documentation within these statements is a corrective action plan that has already been implemented.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to mention that he presented the audit report at our work session and was much, much more specific. And I
Yes.
don't want to think the viewing public that he
That's
just
right.
skimmed over like this. So.
Right, yeah, we met at 4 o'clock, just so the public knows, and he went over the report in detail,
Yeah,
with us.
absolutely. I mean, this thing is 70 pages long. There's a lot of information here. The numbers we're going over, again, are the key points. These statements, they meet all the requirements. They're in the format that the local government commission requires. They meet all GAP standards, and they end up being 75 pages long, so it's a plethora of information. But those numbers, the fund balance, that is the most important number, and how that number changed in the current year, going up $133,000. That is where you make decisions on what can we afford, what
Right.
can we budget, and so that's why I'm presenting here today. But again, these. If there's any questions from anybody regarding these statements, I'm happy to answer those, even from the public. My number is in the statements, and I can be reached anytime. Our firm statewide does 60 school districts. This is all we do, and so I do this all year long. So I'm happy to answer any questions from anyone.
Thank you.
So.
Well, and before you leave, I'd just like to thank our finance officer, Larissa York, for such a great audit. I don't think we've had one this clean before.
No, great job,
Great
Ms. York.
job.
Thank you, Larissa.
And thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
All the work that you've made,
Yeah,
in this
certainly.
report.
And we look forward to starting it again in March.
It'll be here before you know it. That's right.
It happens just like that. So.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Please
Thank
be
you.
safe. Okay, now we can turn it over to Dr. Lutz to give us an update.
Okay. Well, as we have at every board meeting since March, we have an update on where we're at with our virtual learning and our in-person learning. This data is always a bit fluid, as we do allow students to leave the classroom and choose virtual. That virtual option is always there. Our elementary pre-K has stayed pretty steady at around 20%. We have 19% of our students in the virtual option right now, and that we also had to add a teacher to second grade at the semester break due to numbers, and we also have added a teacher to the fourth and fifth grade again to alleviate numbers and try to provide as high a quality of education as we can at all times. I do want to point out that the state has not allowed for any leniency on our class size numbers, whether they're virtual or in person. And again, we do our absolute best to be financially prudent with our staffing, and so we run those numbers right where they should be. So we have to run certain ratios. But when we had to go to virtual, these numbers didn't add up just right, and so we had to add staff at an additional cost. Fortunately, we were able to use some federal government funds in relief to the COVID Act to help support this for the duration of the year. The middle school, we put up percentages here. We have about 40% of our kids continue to choose the virtual option at Currituck Middle School, and at Moyock it's around 30%. We do believe that some of this is due to the fact that our teachers are teaching synchronously and the students can stay home and are right into class, not change teachers. We did not offer that in the K-5 arena. It was just deemed to be too difficult to try to make that work. And fortunately, our middle school staff and soon to be our high school staff are both taking the model where students can join the class as it is live. So in high schools, our numbers continue to, they fluctuate daily. But right now we have 39% of our students choosing the virtual option at our comprehensive high school, at Currituck County High School. And JP-NAP, 34% are choosing the virtual option. What that means is, I believe, Ms. Dowdy, we have 317 students in Cohort A that begins on Monday, January the 25th, and Cohort B has 287 students. And we are okay with that. That's around 600 students have chose to come back in person, about 300 at a time. That allows us to have the, enforce is not the word, to practice the social distancing protocols that we have to operate under Plan B. Busing continues to be a bit of a strain, but the fact that the numbers are where they're at is going to allow us to transport our students, despite only having one student per seat on a bus under Model B for both middle and high school. Big shout out to our transportation department for ensuring that that's going to occur. And our high schools have been steadily over the past 2 weeks amping up and getting ready for students to prepare to return. And I know there's great excitement in the air and a lot of anxiety as well. And we've been here before. This is our fourth start to the year, I'm saying. We started in virtual, and we started pre-K-5, then middle school, and now high school. And so we're getting pretty good at how to start up school, and we can anticipate the questions. We've met, Mrs. Dowdy's done a great job of setting up town hall meetings with the high school staff. She's been to the JP-NAP staff meeting as well. We're trying to make sure all the questions are answered. Mr. Mullins has been on calls along with Virginia Arrington as well to try to alleviate our concerns and fears as we get ready to return to in-person. We're approaching almost a full year since we went out of school. It was March 13th, and here we are. It's going to be January 25th, and we're going to bring the high schoolers back. And again, I appreciate the board's patience throughout this process. I appreciate the staff and this community for being patient as we do our absolute best to return students to in-person learning, to have that option and do it as safely and as responsibly as we can. That is my update for this one. I will have another one in February.
Thank you very much. We move on to our budget, which is always exciting. Dr. Lutz is going to bring us up to date on the potential impacts of the 2020-2021 budget.
So it is exciting because we're going to line our budget and our financial needs to align with focus on instruction to improve learning. And it's an exciting time to take these steps forward. I will be joining the county commissioners at their retreat in early February, and we'll begin discussions around what our board see as our priorities, and look forward to working with our county commissioners and our county manager to continue to provide a quality education for all of the students in Currituck County. I do want to point out that looming for the 21-22 budget is a unfunded class mandate from the state of North Carolina that's going to require us to hire 8 to 10 new teaching positions in grades K through 3. Up until this point in time, we've been able to, we added 5 new positions for the mandate this year. Due to our increasing ADM, we were able to absorb those positions. The state, so that was because we had more money coming in. It wasn't because the state funded it, because they were requiring the class size mandates to be met, but our ADM actually dictated that we received more funding. So we were fortunate in that regard. We do not see that occurring next year. And so what we are looking at is upwards of $600,000 to staff these 8 to 10 unfunded positions. And I want to put that on the table. It is something that everyone needs to be aware of. In terms of our instructional priorities, our teaching assistants, our instructional aides, we have not hired in this area for several years. As our classes have grown, especially at the northern end, we have not hired instructional aides, teacher assistants, and I refer to them as, I'm using the word instructional aid because they provide a valuable piece to the puzzle. They do small group instruction, they provide reading groups, they help with behavior. They are an aid to our instruction. They are, we know them as teacher assistants, and they are assistants, and they are aides, and they are instructional aides. And so they do a yeoman's work across our county. I'm proposing that we use a 2-to-1 ratio for grades K1. And what I mean by that is if we have 6 kindergarten classes, which I anticipate in at least one building, and 6 first grade classes in a building, that giving us 12 teachers, we would have 6 teacher assistants to staff those positions. I'm also proposing a +1 per building. That's not an extra person per se, but there is a tremendous amount of work that goes on at the elementary level around behavior, around the MTSS process and supporting students and providing small group instruction. And that person can support grades 2, 3, grades 4, 5, and help with severe behavioral pieces in the classroom so that instead of moving kids to a more restrictive environment, we can meet them right in the classroom. We have discussed previously the important role that instructional coaches play. We will be proposing adding instructional coaches to our staff to continue to support what our priorities are around teaching and learning and what our vision is for this county. The Exceptional Children's Department continues to grow. As our population grows, so do our student needs. We will need to add 2 additional teaching positions at the building level and an estimated 4 EC teacher assistants, and that would be outside of the standard teacher assistants. We do leverage as much federal and state funding for exceptional children's positions as possible, but it does not fully cover our needs as a county. Some other considerations: the cost of providing a specially designed instruction. In a county our size, we're always going to have students whose needs may not be able to be met directly within the county, and sometimes we have to look elsewhere. And that is a pretty consistent occurrence. And anytime you get to the numbers we're at, you're going to have kids that are going to have very high needs. The cost to educate high need students is sometimes very large, and sometimes we have been spending $200,000 to $300,000 on providing this education for all students. So I just want to point that out, that always looms. And why is that important tonight to point that out? Well, we already talked about our fund balance being at $800,000. And so when you look at $200,000 being spent to educate just several students, it brings to light how low that fund balance is and why we have to be looking at all of these items. The transportation inefficiency model, which has certainly been discussed over the years, we lose somewhere in the neighborhood of $125,000 to $150,000. We will not lose the funding this year because the formula has been relaxed, but I fully anticipate that being brought back into the fold in 21-22. Again, $150,000 because we're inefficient. Inefficiency for the state is pile as many kids on the bus as you can, and how long it takes doesn't matter. And there's no accommodation for routes like the one we have to Corolla that automatically reduce our efficiency rating. And so I point that out, that is a consideration that I just want everyone to be aware of. And again, in working closely with our county manager and our commissioners, we are preparing for the opening of a new school building, and this has a further impact on the budget in the future as we need to start putting money aside for when that building is open, because when a building is open, there are incurred costs that you have to prepare for outside of just the bricks and mortar, in terms of nurses, guidance counselors, assistant principals, teachers, and so on and so forth. So there is an additional expense that we do have to prepare for moving forward in anticipation of opening up a new building in the northern end of the county.
Yeah, Dr. Lutz, you mentioned the unfunded mandate of teaching positions and said that was about $600,000.
At least.
Yep, and then the Exceptional Children's Department, $200,000. Well, there's our $800,000 fund balance. So, one other suggestion. Could you call Bobby Hanig and Bob Steinberg just to let them know that we're facing this unfunded mandate?
We had a discussion this morning with the Northeast superintendents, and I'm going to get to the answer to your question. But one of our state school board members was on that call, and she's very interested on the impact that this unfunded mandate is going to have on all of the districts across the state, whether it's classrooms or just hiring teachers. And so it would be a good idea to reach out to Bobby. And congratulations, he's been named the majority whip, which is a pretty prominent position. It's an exciting thing for Currituck County. And we certainly should reach out. I can say that there has been very little movement on this position, that we will be implementing the class size mandate. So that's when I have pushed back a little bit, and that's what's come back. There's no interest to have a discussion, but 8 to 10 positions for Currituck means 8 to 10 positions or more for Elizabeth City, and so on and so forth. And so what we end up is we are already facing a teacher shortage, and then now we're going to try to staff off of each other's off of neighboring districts, unfortunately.
And I know a lot of times they try to say that, like with small schools money, well, you knew that was coming, you knew that was coming, you knew that was coming. And that's true, but with adding 8 new teachers, you can know it's coming all you want to, but if there's no funding coming with it, I mean, you're making laws and changing things, and you're not putting any funding in there to implement it.
The intent is good.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
The intent is good.
Absolutely.
Smaller class size, increase our reading.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
But along with that change should come the funding with it. So it should go hand in hand, and that's what I don't understand. I'd like to see us reach out to them. I'd also like to see us write a letter stating, in black and white what we're facing, and the money that it's going to take, and the financial strain that it's going to put upon the Board of Education with our fund balance being so low. I really think if it's in letter form and they can see it in black and white, that makes a difference.
And if you have any influence with the superintendents that you're speaking with, then maybe they could do the same.
Yeah.
I did put it on the agenda for discussion today, and it certainly created a lot of
Good.
interest. And it's also, so a county like Currituck, we are punished, and the education is then funded on the backs of the local dollar.
Right.
So this is, as a Tier 3 county, and there's about 10 to 15 counties like us in the state where all of these fall directly to the local. We cannot find state or federal funds to help.
Okay.
And so it places a burden on our county commissioners, a burden on our Board of Education when these mandates come down.
As well as our residents.
Yeah, and then ultimately the residents.
And perhaps when you write that letter, you can include something in there that we talked about earlier about being geographically challenged and how it affects our efficiency rating and how we lose money.
We've talked about
You know,
that for
we
like
asked,
2 years.
we did,
Yeah.
and they weren't able to help us before, but perhaps they can help us now.
Absolutely. I think there's certainly, when you put a dollar amount to the routes and exactly what that looks like, when it makes no sense to punish us
No.
for driving through Virginia or driving through another county
Our
to
county,
get to.
yeah.
Right.
It makes good sense. And so some of this comes down to strong bullet points and easy conversations. So.
And one more thing, you mentioned you wanted to get additional teacher assistants, which I support that totally.
Absolutely.
And you said K1 is where you're looking to start next year. Are you planning to maybe get more the following year for 2-3?
I think this is a great start.
Okay.
To begin, as we have not added these positions in a number of years, and there's a high need.
Yeah,
I
it
think when we
certainly
do
is.
our larger, and I'm going to delve into this for a moment, a larger strategic plan for our district and what our community wants and what we want, I think all of that is on the table, and that helps drive decision making.
I think so.
Is there something in the works as far as us having like a retreat with the commissioners so we can all get on the same page?
There is. I guess I'll jump ahead a little bit to I can add some superintendent remarks here. So I can do that, right?
Sure.
Okay.
You can do whatever you want to do.
So Ms. Dowdy and I have vetted several people regarding the idea of a strategic plan. We think we've landed on someone that would work well with our board here and also the Board of Commissioners and across our county. So look forward to more information on that in February. The Board of Commissioners retreat is early February. Some of our discussions there will help us in our discussions moving forward. And so we anticipate a retreat when it's appropriate, which is probably going to be late February or sometime in March, that we can all get together. And I think moving forward with our strategic plan as a district is going to be a key part of that timing of when we meet.
Are you talking about us having a retreat first, as a board, and then in late February, and then getting together after we've kind of all come?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that seems to make the most sense. Well, while we're moving, I hate to use the word as fast as we're trying to still be strategic in our approach and making sure we maximize our time. One of the proposals came in and it had us kicking off in 2 weeks, and Renee and I aren't comfortable. We're okay with being uncomfortable. We've learned to do that over the past 9 months. But we're not comfortable just jumping in 2 weeks. We think we're going to give ourselves about 30 days and make sure we map this out and get things moving. It's imperative that we all speak the same language across our 50-mile county.
Okay, I saw where local legislation at the state level, if we want to put anything in, I think it's coming up March 26th. Can we put in something once again about Knott's Island isolated school?
Yeah, we got the isolated school piece, and we've also got the transportation efficiency. I think it's important that we keep the issues separate.
Right.
Unless unless our representatives advise us otherwise. If they want us to combine two, they'll have a better feel.
But I think that is a different situation because Knott's Island does have that transportation piece, but they also have the isolation piece.
They sure do.
Do you want to bring Ms. Peters up to par on the isolated with Knott's Island, because she wasn't on the board when we discussed that?
So the Ocracoke, for example, gets isolated school exemption, and they get extra funding to ensure that they're able to run, I'm using Ocracoke as an example. We think Knott's Island potentially meets the same criteria in several different ways, so that we can get some extra funding to help support the operations at Knott's Island.
And we asked for that, but we didn't.
We did not.
I think their take on that is that because there is a drivable
Right.
way,
Even though it's
that's
Virginia.
what they're trying to use, but
Well, I
Let's let 'em
definitely
drive
I can
on
confirm that
over.
it is. We can be isolated, and I know we have, the past year, or before the school closed, that it seems like our ferry doesn't run a lot, which for the high school and things like that. And I personally think the driving around from Moyoc Middle, those roads, it's dangerous.
it is.
It's,
It is.
I mean,
There's no
We
doubt.
talked about that as well. Is that the best way to get those kids to school?
Okay. Again, we'll continue to look at, try again to leverage every dollar we can get, make the most sense, and continue to have a good relationship with our political. We're fortunate to have Bobby in the position he's in.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. When I heard he was majority whip, I can't tell you how excited I was, understanding how important a position that is in the majority party. And so that could be an excellent, a great thing for Currituck County.
I agree.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Lutz. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We have our upcoming work session, February 18th, if everyone will mark their calendars for that. And then we have our Board of Education meeting following here at the courthouse at 6:30 that evening. At this time, I would like to ask the board members if they would, their closing comments, please. Start with Dr. Dobney.
Yes, earlier today, we interviewed 12 prospective student board members, and almost to a single one, they told how great our teachers were. And I would just like, shout out to teachers because, they were mentioned so often, in the student school board member reports. Okay, Virginia Arrington, I think, gets a lot of credit because she's the one that coordinates with the Albemarle Regional Health Services in getting the COVID tests for, our teachers and school employees. And lastly, I would just like to really thank all the school system employees for everything they've done to help us through this pandemic.
Thank you. Ms. Kraft?
Yes, Dr. Dobney stole my thunder.
Mine too.
Good.
Got to go first.
Well, first of all, it's come to my attention today that my mother was right, that if you cut my hands off, I probably wouldn't be able to talk, so I'm holding them right now. But it's exactly true. Every student, and, we're talking about high school juniors, had nothing but positive things to say about and that was my question, what's the best thing about Currituck schools? And it was that the community was a family and that the teachers cared about them and cared about what was going on and that they made connections with them. And as a retired teacher, that makes me feel really good. And, I have many connections with students because I was fortunate enough to teach here all of my years, and so I'm friends with them and I keep up with them and, their children. It's really sad. But anyway, I do agree with you that, I'm just so grateful that we have this community of people who care about our students. I did go to one school, Moyoc Elementary, and I waved at the teachers through the doors, and wore my mask and everything, and there's lots of learning going on, and the kids are excited to be there. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Ms. Peters?
Well, as we've all been commenting on tonight, this afternoon was actually a very positive, refreshing afternoon, listening to all these wonderful students. We should be very proud. They were all very well spoken. They had lots of great ideas, some of them that we really wrote down and hope to implement. There should be a lot of proud parents out there because they have really done a great job, and these kids show it. And as they've both alluded to, that was one of the common things. One of the strengths about the Currituck County school system was the relationships, the teachers, how their teachers go above and beyond. We'll reach out to them, we'll help them out. And that was really a great thing to hear, being from Currituck school system myself. I have relationships with teachers still now as well. So it was just a wonderful afternoon meeting all of them, and to all of them it was a really hard decision, but we could only pick two, but they should all be very proud because they did a great job. And of course, yes, thank you to all of our staff and the teachers who are doing an amazing job, every day with teaching and keeping everyone safe and themselves safe. And, to everyone who's getting ready to go back, we continue to hope that everything stays safe. And to parents, I know it's stressful. I know my daughter's been in school, and every day I remind her of all the things to do about, wearing keep your mask on, things like that. And I do think it's up to parents as well, sending our kids to school to remind them of these things and taking some of the responsibility to make sure we're keeping our staff safe by, if you know that you or your child's been exposed, do notify the school and keep them home so that we can keep everyone safe. But like I said, it's been it was a good day, and I'm proud today to be on the board and to be a knight.
Well, we're glad to hear, Ms. Peters. Thank you. Ms. Rose?
Well, I too wanted to talk about the students that we interviewed today, and how they all just talked about the relationships they'd formed with teachers and how they had influenced them in such a large part of their life. And I don't know if teachers realize how important it is with these relationships they're making, but they really do have an impact on our students more than just academically. And that's so important. I too wanted to thank all of our faculty and staff members. You've done a great job. I wanted to thank all those that have been involved with making sure all faculty and staff members were offered the vaccination. I saw that in action myself this week, not at the schools, but in the county, and it's just the way that it went so smoothly was just amazing. So hats off to all the folks involved with that. And I do want to give a shout out to Kim Jackson. Kim Jackson taught in Currituck for a long, long time, and I was sad to hear that she's leaving us, and she's had an impact on many students, forming relationships and teaching social studies, and I'd like to wish her the best.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Rose. Taylor, we usually have student board member comments. Do you have anything that you would like to say or let us know how the students are doing, or your peers?
Yeah, so just to kind of start off what they said about, teachers really having an impact is earlier, while you guys were finishing up, we were waiting outside, and I saw Miss I guess she's Miss Icon now, but it was Miss Schuler when she taught me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long, and it was just like the craziest moment, because I felt like, not that I never expected to see her again, but I was, why are you here?
Right.
You work here now? But it is just like crazy how the teachers in this county are so close-knit, and like they keep up with you even like when you're in high school, because she was my third grade teacher.
Oh my goodness.
Even though it wasn't that long ago, it feels like a long time ago. But other than that, I just want to know, especially for me, and I feel like other people in the high school as well are very excited to go back to campus, as it's been a long time.
Yes.
Almost a year. That's a long time to be away from the classroom. And so just being able to see each other again and everything like that and have in-person instruction will be very nice. So I'm very grateful that you guys were able to allow us to go back next week.
And hats off to Taylor.
Yes.
She is, you want to talk about
No,
what she's
no,
doing?
you go ahead.
Taylor is, I don't want to say you're in the running. What is the word? She's
Finalist.
a finalist
Yes.
for the Moorhead Scholarship.
Woo, I wish you the
And
best.
we,
Oh, wow.
Taylor is, she is state president of FBLA, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And she plays volleyball, and she does a whole lot of things.
That's
And we're
wonderful.
very
Busy
proud
lady.
of her. It just does a wonder. I don't know how you do it all, but we're proud of you.
There's sometimes,
Just do it.
especially now with virtual learning, you have to
Yes.
find other ways to take your time from.
Well, we're proud of you.
Yes,
we're
we
very
are,
proud of you.
Taylor.
And don't forget us. When you become famous,
Yeah.
remember.
You're up there, at the inauguration, being sworn in.
Yeah.
We want front row seats.
I'll never forget Currituck. I think any other student will.
Aw.
Nice.
Well, thank you. Dr. Lutz.
Well, you stole my thunder with Taylor.
I'm sorry.
Pass that one out. Yeah, all right. Congratulations, Taylor. And it's good to see you here, too. It is. I touched on the strategic plan already. I was going to have that in the closing remarks. Part of that strategic plan will revisit the accreditation process. I promise you we have not forgot about that, but it wraps into, again, we don't want to duplicate work. We want to be efficient in our work. We are not forgetting that piece. I had promised a timeline. When we started talking through the strategic plan more, I think it's more appropriate to wrap it in with that. We did begin our search for a high school principal. That posting went out last Friday. We have had a number of applicants to date, and we certainly are going to continue to find the absolute best candidate for that job. We've thanked the staff. I had sent out a staff email last week. I did my best to create
That's impossible.
scaffolding. And that's everybody that is involved in the entire system and how we all play a role in educating children, young adults, and so on. And so my attempt to do that, I almost captured everybody. I still missed a few, and I still missed two more that I didn't put out. That was guidance and SRO, but I think I've captured it all. But the basic premise of that was to get people to understand that we all have a piece of making this a success.
Absolutely.
And to that, again, I thank our staff, and again, I thank our board for your patience as we've brought all of our students back. We're on the verge of bringing all of our students back. Taylor, it's good to hear that because I, too, have anxiety. I want things to work. I want things to go well. I want our staff to be safe, but I also want to see our kids have the opportunity to return to in-person learning.
Absolutely.
And so I thank you all for the patience in helping us get there. So.
Thank you, Dr. Lutz. Kudos. I'm just going to reiterate what other members have said. Virginia Arrington, heading up and assisting and organizing the endeavor with Albemarle Regional Health Department, making sure that everyone in the school system has the option to be vaccinated, and I think that number is 80%.
We have about 80% of our staff.
80% of our staff have received the vaccine. So my hat's off to Ms. Arrington for that. Taylor, again, we thank you for everything that you do. We're very proud of you, and we wish you the best. I hope you receive that honor and that award.
Time will tell. I'll have an update for you in March.
In
I
March,
was just getting ready to ask you when it was. March?
mid-March, or
And I find out March 5th.
Wow.
Okay.
okay,
Board meeting should have
should have it.
Might need to let us know before then.
Hats off to Larissa York. Is Larissa here?
She's still here.
Still here. There she is. Okay, she's behind Renee. Thank you for everything that you do concerning finance and keeping us and your staff. Yes, I know it's not just a one-person job, but please thank them for us, and we thank you for everything that you do. Dr. Lutz, Miss Dowdy, Ms. Jones, everybody, I can't say enough about the team effort everybody is working together for one common goal, and that's for our kids. To do the best job that we can to keep our kids safe and to educate our children. And for that, I am very proud to be a board member for Currituck County Board of Education. And with that being said, I am going to ask if we have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
No, y'all want to
Second.
stay here a little while longer? Okay. We have a first?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.